What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be showing you how to take any car and make it look lower for less than $100. And no, we're not just going to shove a whole bunch of sandbags in the trunk. The way we're going to make this car look lower is by wrapping the roof black. That'll make the car look lower and everything will flow nicely together. In order to get a professional look, I've broken it up into two steps. The prep step, which is the most important to getting a clean final product. With wrapping, you'll see any imperfection afterwards if you don't prep the surface right, and the wrapping section. For the prep section, I bought this clay bar set off of Amazon. Comes with 4 clay bars, a spray bottle, lubricant so that we can glide the clay bars across, and it came with a microfiber towel. Our last step will also be to wipe down the whole surface with isopropyl alcohol in order to get rid of any dust or imperfections we might have. And then we have our wrapping. I also bought this kit off of Amazon. It came with 2 squeegees, 2 magnets in order to hold down our vinyl, a knife and extra blades. This is just a special cutter tool. You put the vinyl into this gap and slide it across and it'll cut the vinyl. And then this is 3M knifeless tape. Because the Volkswagen doesn't have anywhere to tuck the vinyl into, this will help us get a nice clean cut on the edge. And last but not least, we're gonna be wrapping our roof gloss black. I think that's the cleanest option to wrap a roof, and it'll help us make the car look lower. So we've gotten the car in the shop. The weather wasn't cooperating with us the past couple days, but we need to prep this roof to get it ready for wrap. So we're gonna do a bit of clay barring. This car was pretty neglected before I owned it, so there's a lot of contaminants in the roof. We gotta try our best to get them out. The clay bar kit comes with these tablets. You fill up the spray bottle, you put one of these tablets in and you wait for it to dissolve, and that'll be the lubricant for the clay bar. So what you're doing when you're clay barring is you are rubbing this clay bar across all the paint, and it's taking out the contaminants as you do so. So as you're wiping it back and forth, you'll feel it'll get smoother and smoother. And then you look at the clay bar, and if there's any contaminants inside, you just fold it over so that you're not rubbing any dirt into your paint. And it does a really good job at cleaning it out. So I don't know if you guys can see on the camera, but right here we have a lot of contaminants in the paint. You can see all these black spots. And what the clay bar does is first you spray the lubricant on, you just rub the clay bar back and forth. And at first it'll feel kind of rough, and then it'll start to smooth out. And as you're rubbing it across, it'll take out the contaminants. So you guys can see right there all the contaminants that we just pulled out of the paint. Once you get to a point where the clay bar is dirty, you just fold it in on itself. The one thing you really want to make sure of is that your surface is always lubricated so you're not scratching the paint. So this is that same area. If we wipe off all this lubricant, you'll see that it's a lot cleaner, that we don't have any of those black spots anymore, and it's a lot smoother. Even rubbing this rag across it, I can feel that the paint is clean and it's free of any contaminants. So now when we put wrap over this, it won't have any imperfections right here. It looks like this car was sat underneath a tree before I got it, and there's some spots with like tree sap on it. So for those spots, I'm just using isopropyl alcohol and rubbing it until it comes off. So if there's any spots like this, I'm just going with isopropyl alcohol and rubbing until it goes away. And then the clay bar should get the rest. Now that we're done clay barring the roof, we can wipe off all this lubricant, take that antenna off, and clean in these gaps where we're going to be tucking our vinyl. This is very important to make sure that our vinyl sticks into these gaps. So we would need to clean back there and into this gap where the trunk meets the roof, because we're going to be tucking the vinyl in there and we don't want it to come up. As I'm wiping the car down, I can tell that the paint's already a lot smoother, and I'm really excited to see how it's going to look with the gloss black roof. Going to really tie this whole car together with the black mirrors and black front grills. So cleaning in this gap is going to be really important. We're going to tuck the vinyl down in there, so we want to make sure that we get it really clean so the vinyl has something to stick to. So I'm going to grab the normal squeegee and wrap this microfiber around it and shove it into this gap and really clean in there just so that I have a nice edge. I'm going to go back and clean all of this dirt out, and it's going to be perfect to tuck our vinyl down into there. Normally there would be a molding here that we could tuck the vinyl under, but since this windshield was replaced, there's nothing here. You can see we cleaned out that gap pretty well. Now when we do cut our vinyl to tuck it into there, we'll have a really good surface to stick to. Now let's just go clean the one on the trunk and we'll be ready to start wrapping. So for this, I'm going to use the same concept. I'm just going to use the squeegee and stick it into this gap and really clean back and forth, and it'll clean this edge. I can also open the trunk a little bit to get a better look at where I'm cleaning. I actually think that'll be enough to get the... And now we'll be able to reach behind here and get to the bolt that holds the antenna on. So right underneath the headliner, right there, is the bolt that holds the antenna. I'm using a T27 to get it off. Once you unscrew it, the antenna will just come off from the top. Just like that. So mine has 3 plugs. They just unplug by pulling a little white tab out and then pressing on the little clip. Now we just clean up this area and we're ready to put knifeless tape and start wrapping. For those of you who don't know what knifeless tape is, it's this tape with a string in it if you guys can see. So you lay it down where you want your edge to be, and once you're done, you tuck to it and you'll pull up this string and it'll cut through the vinyl. So let's go ahead and lay this down where we want that edge to be. After that, we can start wrapping. Now that I laid it down, it's gonna be easier to see. There's a small thread, really hard to see, small thread inside this green tape. So we'll lay the vinyl down up to it, even past it, and then we'll grab the end here, pull it through, and it should slice all the way through to the end. So this is the first time I'm wrapping something this big. I've watched a couple of YouTube videos and it doesn't seem too bad. It is a pretty flat and large area, so it's not like a bumper or something like that. Here you can see I'm using that orange tool I showed you guys in the beginning to cut the vinyl. The first thing that I didn't take into account is how cold it was in the shop. When I peeled off the backing of the vinyl just did not want to stick to the roof. So I turned on the heater, used the heat gun, and took my time, and it ended up working out all right. My biggest tip for someone trying to do this on their own is just take your time, make sure that it's a warm enough area, and just make sure that you prep. That's the most important part. Here you can see I'm using the knifeless tape. You just pull on that pink thread and it cuts straight through the vinyl, really easy. Last thing I'm gonna do is cut this hole for the antenna so that I can put the antenna on. Now that we have everything trimmed and tucked, we can take off this protective coating, and that'll make it look a lot better because right now we have all these scratches from the squeegee on top. Now that we've gotten all three of the plugs on, we can go ahead and screw in the connector that holds in the antenna. It just goes in like this, and I used a T27. Now that we've got the antenna screwed back on, we can go ahead and flip in these trims and we'll be all done. So it's 11:30, we finally got the roof wrapped. It turned out a lot better than I thought. It's my first time really wrapping. We do have a white all the way along here because there's no molding. I couldn't really do much about that, but it's consistent the whole way through. It's not like wavy or anything, so I'm not too worried about it. I could get a molding to go in here. This line down the edge where I did it with knifeless tape turned out great. Tomorrow we're gonna do this back half so it blends in with the car. I'm gonna probably follow this body line. I still plan to get a spoiler, and that's for a separate video, but right now that you can see there's a whole bunch of streaks. I did like do a cheaper ceramic coat / wax on this, so when we were driving, all the water droplets were running off. As you can see, it makes the whole car look lower, and it really ties together all these gloss black parts of the Golf R. I think it looks really good. So it's a couple days later. I'm really liking the way this roof turned out. We're gonna try to wrap this back section with the little leftover vinyl we have. I'm gonna try my best to run the knifeless tape along this body line. I feel like that's the only place I'm able to cut it where it's gonna be a smooth transition between the roof and the rest of the car. So let's go ahead and do that while we still have some daylight. Here's a better look at this knifeless tape. I'm following this body line all the way across, trying my best to keep it straight without any waves, without going back and forth. So now we can wrap on top of this section, pull that knifeless tape, tuck this edge, and we'll be all done. It's not a heat gun, but I did find blowtorch, and that'll work. We'll just heat it up really slowly. I'm loving how this roof turned out. It definitely tied the whole car together. So let's give this car a quick rinse and then we'll go get some rollers.